Whoa. There's the irony, a plastic squid. But whilst you can find hundreds of pieces scattered across the shore, it's out there in the seas and the oceans that the problem really lies. If current predictions are accurate, by 2050, some 100 years on from the advent of petroleum-based plastics, we're going to have more of this in that than we will fish. I need to keep this as a memento now, so.
Our modern, complex industrial world has found them insufficient and has turned elsewhere to fulfill its needs.
Ever wondered where your plastic bottles end up if you don't recycle?
It comes and goes with the currents, you know, within a few hours, but that was horrifying, that amount.
Audiences across the country, glued to Blue Planet 2, have been starkly reminded of the problems of plastics pollution.
The problem was vividly highlighted in the BBC's recent Blue Planet 2 series, which was public service broadcasting at its finest.
Their limitless applications can be measured only by the sign for infinity, and that's the symbolic trademark of Biddulph products.
Relatively speaking, plastic is a new material. It's only got a very short history. It's a 20th century discovery of chemistry. And yet, since its first creation, the development and usage of plastic has advanced at a rate that nobody could have ever really imagined. So how is it that this 20th century champion has become a burden for the 21st? Well, one of the problems lies in its positive properties. Plastic degrades very, very slowly, which means it stays around for a very long time. That's all well and good if you only make a small amount of it, but we make rather a lot. I'd heard about a project, Everyday Plastic, set up by Daniel Webb, a guy who had kept all of his plastic throughout the whole of 2017. So Dan, why have you done this?
For lots of reasons really. I wanted to gain more of an understanding about production of plastic, our use, how we dispose of it responsibly, if it's recycled. I mean, most people will assume that this can all just go into our recycling bin. Hardly any of it can go into the recycling bin. We've gone through and worked out that around 2% of this will be recycled in the UK.
2% of all of this
2%
can be recycled?
Of all of this can be recycled. So we counted 4,500 pieces. It's about 111 pieces. Yeah.
So how much of this ends up in the ocean then?
Around 50 pieces will end up in the sea. Doesn't sound a lot over the course of a year for one person, does it? I mean, it'll be about one a week. But if you imagine timesing that by the amount of people in this country, 63 million, you're looking at over 3 billion pieces a year.
That's a tremendous amount of plastic in the ocean.
Which I suppose is 63 million a week, roughly.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's incredible. The facts and figures are a damning indictment against our 20th century hero material. We're beginning to see that it's affecting the planet and us as individuals. But there is a glimmer of hope. As all the evidence is amassed and shared, collective mindsets begin to alter and the demand for change begins to build. But what about design? How are designers looking to make a change? I've made it here to Elephant and Castle to designer James Shaw's studio to see how he's come up with a creative, recycled solution to the problem. So you're heating this up at the same time as the main element is heating up behind it.
Yeah.
Ready for the plastic to go in.
Absolutely, because so when the plastic's moving through, that keeps this hot. But at this stage, you need to melt all the stuff that's already in there so that can get pushed out when it's running. So let's give it a go. Which colour should we start with?
Let's go with
yellow. Bit of yellow. Now, pair of gloves.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow. That was pretty quick.
That was a bit quick. So I've just turned the heat up now.
500.
Up to 500. And then we're starting to get a nice tug coming out. So now that's kind of got a good melt on it. It's coming out nice and consistently.
So am I cutting and then coiling essentially?
Basically, yeah, you could do like a coil pot.
But maybe if I cut it now, then we can do another colour?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow, so I can feel it's warm then.
It is
so it's still hot.
It is warm.
Super malleable.
Something to bear in mind is it like massively shrinks as it's cooling down.
Oh, okay.
That's not bad. I mean, you can keep on reworking into it to keep it in that shape.
I'm happy with that.
There's a few of the objects around here.
Perfect. Toilet roll holders.
Toilet roll holders, candlesticks, bowls, the whole lot. It was quite a weird thing when I first got into using plastic because, you know, like I've kind of come from a making background and in the making scene it's like wood, stone, glass, you know, these are the kind of good materials, the natural materials. And plastic's always got a kind of bad name attached to it. And it's seen as something like fake or wrong or, you know, just not a good thing. So I think I was kind of in a, I guess, slightly perverse way. I was like, all right, well, I want to hang out with that and see what that's about. And then from that, I kind of got into this idea of using recycled plastic and was like, whoa, you know, this is actually everywhere. And this can be a kind of really abundant resource that I can tap into as a maker and then save that from, you know, going into landfill sites and out into the ocean and everything.
So you've hung out with and made friends with plastic.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great. It's refreshing to see a designer ingeniously reimagining how we use and how we might perceive plastic, particularly recycled plastic. But that's one designer. So is there a sustainable future for plastic and one that goes beyond recycling? Caroline Till of Franklin Till, a futures research agency here in the UK, thinks there is, and it's designers that will lead the charge.
There's three key roles that we've been exploring. That is the role of the designer in finding alternative materials or looking at how we can make plastic less harmful. Innovative recycling techniques, so really celebrating how plastic can effectively be put into a closed loop cycle and changing the perception of the consumer, so how we can make objects that are desirable and seductive above everything else, but then obviously dealing with the waste issue.
It's interesting that Caroline mentioned desirability there. Could this be the best way to seduce consumers over to an ethical relationship with plastic? We're starting to see manufacturers like Interface, who use marine plastics to make carpet tiles, really see the value in waste materials. As we got John Koo of Interface and Paul Rose of National Geographic to discuss.
In my lifetime, I don't remember a single issue that has captured so many people into action like this. I mean, you know, you can talk about overpopulation, you can talk about pollution of other kinds, you can talk about deforestation, lack of biodiversity, you know, loss of habitat, all the things that go on, climate change. But this issue has just really grabbed everybody, whether it's from, you know, school children, parents, business leaders, governments, you know, you name it. Everybody is engaged in this plastic. The customers have become smart. We're smart, aren't we? So if someone says, if you buy this, it is going to do this, do that, it's desirable, it works well, it's affordable, and it just happens to be the right thing to do. That's amazing. Because it used to be that to do something good for the environment, you had to wear a hair shirt. But now we can have desirable objects. I mean, look at, you know, from Tesla cars, Interface, you go, wow, look at this stuff, this is great. I like that, sure, I can afford it, let's make it work. And guess what, it just happens to be the right thing to do. So this is the clever thing.
Yeah, it's not, like we saw maybe in the 90s where you kind of, oh, it's ethical, so it might not be as functional. Yes. I think for us as a business, we've always felt, you know, we create a beautiful product, and we can have a impact with it, and we can start with waste, make something beautiful, and then make sure we bring it back at the end of life. Take responsibility for our products, and I think consumers are increasingly asking for that.
So it's clear, in plastic we have a super material, but we've relied too heavily upon it. We've assumed that it's being dealt with effectively, and we've thought too little about its impact. But If designers and manufacturers can progressively lead the way, and consumers continue to be conscious in their decision making, we may yet still have time.